So this one says, hello, sisters. I'm a married woman with 2 kids. My husband is financially stable, but my past is haunting me. During my university days, I dated this older man who is now my father-in-law. The issue is my father-in-law kept sleeping with me, so he doesn't reveal my past to his son. I'm scared that the second child that I have might be for my father-in-law. I'm guessing if the DNA test is conducted, the results will prove me right. I want to end the sexual affair with my in-law without losing my marriage and respect. I'm tired of having sex with father and son. Yeah, it doesn't get crazier than that. Yeah. So, married, 2 kids, used to date this older guy. He's now their father-in-law. She's still sleeping with him. She suspects this second child belongs to her father-in-law. How does she stop this relationship completely without ruining her marriage? Gail, you're in studio with me, so I'm going to, dump right this in your lap. Yeah.
You see, the last sentence, she was like, she doesn't want to lose respect in her marriage.
Yes.
I mean, this is a joke of a marriage. So already you don't even have a marriage. So what do you want to lose? And sorry to say about this, she doesn't have any respect as well, because she made it look like the father-in-law was blackmailing her so that he doesn't reveal what they had. That's what I'm getting.
Yes.
But you're an adult at the end of the day, and if you say your past is haunting you, your past is still still your present. Yeah, so I don't know how you can even differentiate the two. It's still ongoing. And when you decide to marry somebody, it should start on trust, transparency and honesty and all those things. And honesty doesn't necessarily mean that everything has to sound good. It could be about the good and bad. You have to be honest about everything, upfront about everything. And yes, you said you dated a guy in the past. Okay, that's your past, whatever. And then you happen to meet the son. I mean, I don't think before you said I do to the guy, you should have at least, come clean with the son and let him decide. You've made a decision for him by marrying him, and you kept him in the dark.
Right.
That's not cool. So if you had told him, let him make the decision for himself and be like, okay, yes, you've been with him before. After all, we all have exes and stuff. So let him be able to decide and say, okay, I'm not comfortable with my dad being with you before, or what. Let him decide on that on his own. But for you to decide for him, that was where the mistake started. And now you're talking about your second child being, you're suspecting. And they always say that the mother knows who the father, the real father. So if she's saying that, then she knows. But how can you live in this situation? It's so toxic and too much, like psychologically, it's too much. Because you're dealing with this and you're always looking behind your shoulder and you expect that, your marriage should what? Should work? No, I don't think so. So she should forget about, continue with this marriage, because definitely it will come and bite her in the butt. I'm sorry, because one day something might happen. Maybe the kid might need something. They'll have to do a DNA test. And even if she thinks because the grandfather might be the kid's father, she's saying that the DNA might prove that the father it's because sometimes your father and your I think your
like his son, almost
can
the same
still
genes.
Have the same genes,
right.
But you still cannot get away with that, because at least your conscience, is what's eating you up.
Right.
So if I were you, you've done enough. You've done enough. Just if you want to come clean, let them know what's going on, because you can't do this. And then you should know that as soon as it comes out, you don't have a marriage. I don't think your husband will want to be in such a situation.
So you're saying she should definitely come clean with both of them?
To.
Or just her husband?
Well, the father knows what he's doing. The father, he knows what he's doing, and what I don't know what's going on between the two of them. But the one who is in the dark is the most important person. He has to know. And if I were here, I'll just get out of the marriage. Come clean for your sanity's sake, for your peace of mind, so that you can heal as well. Because I don't know why you did that.
Right.
And then let them know that this is what happened, and just forget about the marriage.
Right.
Because it's too toxic.
Right. Okay, Rosina, so Gail says forget about the marriage, definitely. Do you agree or disagree? Should she indeed even come clean with her husband?
I completely agree with Gail on her stance on the matter, in that Transparency in marriage is extremely important. It's extremely important. And if you know that what you're doing is good, it doesn't matter how it goes around. So far as the information goes around, you are comfortable, you're in the conscience. When you do things with a clean conscience, there's a beauty about it, in that no matter how it goes and comes around, your conscience is clean. That's number one. Now, like Gail said, that statement that she said that she doesn't want to lose her respect in her marriage, I mean, for me, that was the joke of the century, because in what you've done, you've already lost that respect already. It's one thing having an affair with an older man when you're in school. A few people have done it. You won't be the first person to do it. You won't be the last person to do it. Yes, we don't condone it. However, the moment you found out that the man you were going to get married to, or the man you were in a serious relationship with, is the son of somebody you've had sexual relations with, it is important that you make a life decision there. The decision is whether to break the news to her son about your affair with his father, or to just forgo the whole marriage altogether, because these things, they always come to bite you. There are situations where the men would even say that, okay, now that you're marrying my son, I really like you as a person and will no longer be intimate again. But one day, it is going to happen again, because how do you explain you're not being so close with your father-in-law, XYZ to the son? It is terrible. And the fact that you had to continue sleeping with the man in order to prevent him from telling on you whilst being married to his son, I think it's a very warped situation. It's a very sad situation. I don't know. I can't picture, I can't really wrap my head around it. And I think that this is not a marriage. This is, even if it's a marriage, it's filled on very, 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 very varied levels. I mean, there's no trust, there's no transparency, it's built on lies, it's built on deceit, it's built on so many very wrong foundations. And those foundations are needed to have a successful marriage. So my take is that, my dear, in your head, start psychologically preparing yourself for not having a marriage. Start forgiving yourself for the harm you've caused yourself and your family. And after you've done that, probably go for some form of psychological, treatment, so that, or some form of therapy to bring you to terms with what you are to face ahead. And then you need to come clean with your husband and let him know what the situation is. Coming clean with your husband is the only way to break free of your father-in-law. Because even if you decide to move away from your father-in-law and break free from him, he would now probably tell his son that secret. And then sometimes when there's a secret, who you hear it from is very important.
True.
If he hears it from you, the wife, it would hurt, it will sink deep, but then the level of anger may be directed rather towards the father.
Right.
But if you wait until the father gets fed up and feels like, okay, now you're denying me, and decides to twist the story and tell his son, then you become a third person. So I think that transparency is key. You need to be very transparent with your husband, because these are not issues you can hide forever. Sure. With the DNA test, yes, there might be strong similarities, because once the DNA is the father's DNA, most likely the DNA will be the same. And DNA is on probabilities. If the probability is even 80%, you can still say, yes, 80% is my son. So it's not a big deal. But your conscience is what the big deal is. And the fact that your father-in-law is still sleeping with you, that's what masks the record even more. If he was no longer sleeping with you, then you can even have some way out that, you know what, after we got married, I've never had anything to do with him again. But this is the case after marriage. You were still having affairs with him just to secure your marriage. And I think this man is going to feel very light to, betrayed to, offended, and everything. So I think you need to go through these processes. But by all means, in your head, there's no marriage. And then realistically, you've lost respect on both fronts. If your father-in-law respected you enough, he wouldn't be sleeping with you still. And the moment the son finds this out, he would also not respect you again. Right. And that's the reality on the ground.
Well, yeah. Okay, so Rosina is also saying, come clean. Sabi, I'm curious to know what you have to say about this particular story. Quite tricky.
I find something very interesting. She used the word, my husband is financially stable, which then says to me that that's a very important element to her. which that also says to me that there's a transactional relationship here. So if she was dating this older man while she was in school, there was obviously something that he was assisting her with, helping her with. She's either maybe not making as much money as her husband, needed help as a young girl. So there's a power dynamic already to begin with here.
Right.
Two, my biggest issue is the child that she talks about, that she says possibly might be my father-in-law's child. So we're not only just dealing with the fact that she's been dishonest in her marriage, we're dealing with the fact that when this comes out, because it will, there is a child at play here. And if this child is not, is not the child of her husband, we've also got now psychological damage. Because once it's found out, for example, that this child is not his, that relationship is going to deteriorate. And so does this child go without a father? Is his grandfather now going to be his father? What does that look like?
Right.
So Rosina said something for me that was really, really vital, and that's therapy is needed here. Even before she talks to her husband, she needs to go to therapy so that she can get the tools needed to deal with the situation. Because it's not just going to be between her and her husband, it's going to destroy the whole family. And for me, honestly, 95% of me says there's no ways he's ever going to forgive this.
Right.
So I think the problem with her is she feels stuck. And that's why I talk about the transactional relationship, because she's probably also thinking about things like, if the marriage ends, what's going to happen to her? Is she going to have a place to stay if she doesn't work, for example? And then there's the shame. So it's not just going to be the shame from his side. It's also shame from her family side.
Right.
Something that started, that's maybe in her mind, she wasn't really thinking, and, she just got into it. It's just snowballed into such a big thing that, now it's also affecting the next generation. And so I would say to her that the number one thing that she has to do now is seek professional help, get to a place where emotionally she's going to be able to deal with this. If she's working, put things in place so that if it ends badly and she's left with nothing and she only can depend on herself, that she can really depend on herself.
Right.
I'm a big believer in grace. I'm a big believer in second chances. But man, this is a huge betrayal. I don't think that trust can be. No.
Yeah. Sounds like she's stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's no easy way out of this. Either way, someone's going to get hurt. Either way, your relationship or your marriage is going to, it's literally done, So I think instead of concentrating on sort of how to end the sexual affair with your father-in-law without losing no, I think you need to do two things. One, psych yourself. Like the girls are saying, that marriage is going to end. There's no man who you'll confess to that you've been sleeping with his father and will still agree to stay married to you.
And have a kid.
Yes, and have a kid. No, I don't know any man who will do that. No. So that marriage is done. So for the sexual affair, end that either way, because that's the reason why you're in the position you are right now. End that. Free yourself of all the guilt and the burden. Tell your husband and let the chips fall where they may. Let me see if I can bring in a couple of comments on this story. So Gregory sends a message, says, you may lose your husband, but it is best to right the wrongs right now. Emmanuel says, wonderful. The way she puts it is equally amazing. The issue is my father-in-law kept sleeping with me so he doesn't reveal my past to his son. The solution to the problem lies in her own utterances. She knows what she has to do, but she wants to protect her image. Nee says, in all honesty, I think this will be a difficult task to do, but if you genuinely love your husband, tell him about the incident. The lady made a mistake not telling the husband about her university days when she found out that the man was her father-in-law. At least it could have stopped something. Hassan says, quote unquote, without losing my marriage and respect, my dear, you don't know what respect is. Mariella says she wants to keep her respect. Sweetie, it's gone. On top of that, the DNA will differ even just a bit. Everyone is unique. You and your in-law are ruthless. Praying for your husband. Efia says, you wanted it. How could he threaten you with this when he equally had something to lose. You should have just dared him instead of giving in so easily. Moha Jane Dodo, you say. And Sabi, for you, that means like you're just troublesome. Gideon says, hey, but this is quite strange. An issue of two adults who insist on ruining an innocent fellow's life. The moment you got to know his father was your one-time love, you should have taken steps to either explain things to your husband-to-be or quit. Charles says you're hiding something. How did you meet the son? 2, when you knew his dad was being intimate with you, why did you continue dating his son? 3, at least you dated his son for a while before getting married to him. And 4, you need deliverance. Lungu says you should have told your husband right away. You'll have to tell him anyway. I wish you had called your father-in-law's bluff. He would have never told his son. He banked on you being afraid. And that's how blackmail works. And a final message from Albi says, you're a wicked woman who does not deserve happiness in this world. You're talking as if you didn't know that your ex or father-in-law was your husband's father before you got married to him. You don't need any advice but deliverance from the spirit living within you. Well, I mean, I'm sure she knows what kind of, damage she's done and trouble she's gotten herself into. I don't want us to condemn her per se, but let's at least guide her on what we think she can do to sort of surmount this very high mountain.
Thank you so much for watching Sister Sister on your favorite City TV. Now, don't forget, if you want some more exciting content, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We call it the City Tube. And don't forget to click on the bell to receive notifications for fresh updates.
Sister Sister, every Friday at 9 p.m. only on City TV.